What's up, everybody? So, today I'm going to talk about marketing your comics with one simple trick that I call the rule of magnitude. And this rule is for comic creators releasing books in the direct market, meaning through a publisher in comic shops, and it also applies to creators funding and or releasing their comic book via crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So I'm going to show you how to use a small group of people to hype your project and sort of step by step grow your audience from 10 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000, etc. And if that sounds interesting, stick around. If you're new to my channel, I'm Lord Max Hoven. I'm a best-selling comic creator and an indie film producer, and I'm the managing director of Hoven Crow Entertainment. I give you business insights into creating comic books and feature films. You can check out the links to all my content at www.hovencrow.com. I currently have a comic series that's live right now in comic shops titled Liquid Kill with Whatnot Publishing, and so check that out for sure. So, jumping into the rule can be understood as this. It's basically leveling up your audience by orders of magnitude by understanding and utilizing each pool of your audience, which grows by levels of magnitude. So, in simple terms, it's like this. If 10 people are talking about your book online, 100 people are going to see it. If 100 people are talking about it, then 1,000 people are going to witness that conversation. And if 1,000 people are talking about your book, 10,000 people are going to be paying attention to that conversation. And thus, even further, if 10,000 people are actually talking about your book, then 100,000 people are paying attention. And when I say talking about, at least like online, or really in any form, I mean literal discussions, be it on social media, online articles, book reviews, self-made advertisements, Facebook groups, morning radio, print newspapers, podcasts, YouTube videos, Discord, etc. It's everything where your content is either being discussed or promoted in any way, shape, or form, and those levels also have their own stages of how in depth and organic and authentic those conversations are. But they start off with general promotion, um, and then turn into real discussions, and real discussions turn into real word of mouth, and that's what grows. It's like real people interacting and talking about it, and it coming up in organic or like just seemingly candid conversations. So that's what I mean by talking about. Thus, the point of what I'm saying is that a relatively small amount of people can look like a lot online. Each pool of people that you market to and get to talk about your book gains the attention of the bigger pool. So if you start off with a small pool of people and you become the king of that pool and everyone around is talking about that book, the pools that is in, the neighbors are going to hear your party, and then they're going to be starting to talk about your party, and then it becomes a neighborhood block party, and then when that block party is raging, then it becomes a whole, bigger event, a festival or whatever. It's probably a bad analogy, but that's the point I'm getting at is, it doesn't take that many people to just, woo, just like pretending they're kicking it to make it seem like it's a bigger deal. It's kind of like if you can let your audiences toot your own horn and let them be your publicist for you. And if you can get them talking about it, other people, they might not realize that those are just kind of like your friends. That they can seem like separate incidents, and it can then cause more organic actual conversations to happen. That's kind of the whole point of doing all this. And then there's like key steps that you can kind of take to actually like sort of build that momentum and get the people talking about it. So like, what is it that you need to do to tell your friends to do to actually start that conversation and make it look legitimate? Not saying that like what you're doing is fake. It's just that the whole kind of point of this is that it doesn't take that many. Think of comics Twitter or just even Twitter in general. You get 10 people to like go to the extremes of expressing themselves to some sort of extreme, and you get 10 people to do that, and then all of a sudden 100 people are talking about, look, did you hear what so and so said? That's so ridiculous. I can't believe people think that way. And then all of a sudden now 100 people are talking about it. So now 1,000 people are going, what are all these people talking about? Look at this extreme thing that is this mass movement that's happening. But really it's just 10 people that are going, that are just hyping some kind of outrageous stance. And then people latch onto that because it's just so outrageous. It's the same thing in storytelling. It's what we call just like shock. It's just like the classic like human centipede kind of thing. Like it's just you're getting people to talk about it, because it's just at an extreme level. And then there's levels, like you don't have to always be so extreme. You just want to at least know the steps it takes. So that's what I'm going over here in this next part. So basically, what this rule of magnitude does is it gives you 4 key audiences and how they relate to your marketing. Thus, 4 steps that you can take that will allow your audience to grow and level up the size of your audience. So regardless of how you publish, either through the direct market or through crowdfunding, your audience can be broken down into the following 4 categories. The first one is your team. All right? This is the smallest pool, and it starts with yourself. And so that's your first level. 0 zeros, just 1. Okay? And you want to level that up, your team, to expand from yourself to 10 people. And this group, your team, is your closest friends and your family. And you must convince this group to be so down with everything you do that every single book you put out, they need to buy it on day 1 of your kicks. If you're a Kickstarter in your book or, crowdfunding in some way, that your friends and family, you need to let them know that they need to buy on the second you launch. They need to buy it. Okay? Because that's your team is the first group to hype. They're the first group to start the discussion. And so if you're going through the direct market, your team needs to pre-order your book. And they also need to convince every single person they know to pre-order the book. They need to start the conversation. So it's of course yourself. You're going to do your own social media posts. You're going to come up with your own campaign. You're going to do all the bulk of the work, and then you're literally going to write press releases, and you're going to basically write everything for everyone that's on your team, and you're going to try to grow your team. Okay? And you're going to basically give them the work for them. It's the same thing as like whenever you're reaching out to the press and you give them the press release. You write what they're going to post. And you can write it in third person to where it doesn't look like you write it. It's the same thing with your friends and family. To make it as simple and easy for them, all you do is you give them pictures, you give them links, you give them articles, you give them press releases, you give them everything to just be like, just start this. You give them the book. That way they can give it out to, places they go and friends and work and school or whatever. This group is critical in like starting to build traction for your book online. You need them to use hashtags with your book title or your publisher. You need to have them basically just hype it before it comes out. And no matter how you're doing it, either self-publishing or through a publisher, and that everyone relies on this, and I feel that a lot of people forget about this. Like they know this, or they know about this and they don't know what to do beyond their friends and family. Okay, they think that that's kind of all they have, and they just try to get more friends and family. But I guess it's hard to make friends. I think I got the key thing out there. Is like they need to be the ones to retweet your posts, like all your Instagram pics, blog about your content, post pictures of your book whenever they receive it. They post artwork saying it's interesting. They share your book at local events and all that stuff. Okay, so that's your friends and family. And that's the key thing is a lot of us, maybe you feel weird asking your friends and family, like maybe they're the ones you're trying to impress in the first place, so you're hesitant about asking them to kind of work for you or with you. That's why I'm saying, like, do all the work for them and just let them know that they are a key aspect to starting the momentum. A lot of things are key about the launch. You want to make the launch look as kind of strong and powerful as it can. And if you can get, it's the rule of magnitude. If you can get 10 people immediately on day one to buy it immediately, it then rises up in the ranks on Kickstarter, or it just looks like it's funding faster. And then people are more interested in it, and it has a higher chance of like showing up on the things we like or recommend or whatever, and so on. And then if you're going through the direct market, it's the same concept, to where it's like, if more people, if they're pre-ordering the book and they're getting their friends to pre-order it, and they're calling comic shops and asking for it, it can just one person calling the comic shop and asking for it makes the comic shop think, if they don't know that, if as long as they're not saying it's my friend and they're just saying they want it, because it's interesting, they'll think, oh, well, if they saw it and it's out there in the realm, people want it. One person now all of a sudden in the minds of retailers can turn into maybe three. Now, if three of your friends call a shop or are pre-ordering the book or are talking about it, now all of a sudden that can look like more. They're like, well, if three people are talking about it, maybe 10 are actually interested. That's like the rule of like the rule of like magnitude, as I am talking about. There's probably a real rule for this. I don't know what it is. That's just what I call it. So then once you get your friends and family, your team, the second level up, and this is about 100 people, this next group is what I call other creators and indie comic commentators. Now what you'll notice is you'll see anybody that's like super selling books and their squad is huge. That's because they've merged their team into this group. They basically have gotten other creators to be down with their squad. They have regular commentators. And when I say commentators, I mean like the people talking about stuff on Twitter. I'm talking about reviewers, YouTubers, bloggers, pop culture sites that they have relationships with, that basically write reviews for every book they put out because they know them. These are the people that go to cons. They build real life relationships. They party with other creators, and they become friends. And now whenever you have the backing of those creators, you now sort of expand your audience by credibility with that creator. Because if you can get another creator to hype your book, be it with doing a variant cover or even just retweeting you, and they have a large following, now their following sees like, oh, if they're down with this and I'm down with you, I might like that. And you can get a good percentage of their audience just from them reposting or hyping in some way. And so this is a huge next level up. It's how you build, 10 to 100. And when you have 100 people on your hype team, that's how you get the attention of 1,000. Okay? And really what it is like, if you have big level creators and commentators, and when I say commentators, like I was saying, let's say it's a review site, and that review site gets an average of 1,000 people reading their reviews every week. Now all of a sudden you have 1,000 eyeballs that are looking at it, and now anybody that looks up your book on Google, then they see there is a review, that's like more expansive. So you can sort of take the larger audience of all those creators. If you have a creator that has 10,000 followers and you've been posted on a site that also has 10,000 daily active users or whatever, now all of a sudden you've just expanded your audience by that much. And in the same way, rules of magnitude go backwards. So if all of a sudden like you're sort of like, it's like the same like you see in like your analytics on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, it's like the more people that are witnessing it, you can sort of consider that probably 1% up to about 10% of those people are actually willing to buy your book. Like they view it, 10,000 viewed it, 1,000 might be interested, and then with those 1,000 that are interested, 100 will probably buy it, and 10 will probably be super down, and become super fans, and then one is going to become a loyal for life kind of person. That's kind of the way, just general rules of numbers. No, whether it sucks or not, that's just kind of like, the bare minimum of kind of how things go. That's the whole point of what you're doing, okay? So other creators and indie comic creators, okay? This is all the artists, writers, and that you have a relationship. You want to grow that. It's comic book bloggers, it's comic book reviewers, it's YouTubers like me, it's the comics Twitter crowd, it's the people you follow on indie comic groups on Facebook groups and Discord groups, and it's essentially the hardcore indie comics crowd and comic creators who are public about their interests and their work. Get to know as many people in this realm as you can, and then sort of slide into their friend group so that they can hype your stuff and actually have them a part of your team. The next group of people up that you'll want to do and build, grow this audience is your publisher's audience and comic speculators. What I mean by speculators are investors and collectors. In short, these are the people who buy your book to collect it and possibly sell it in the future for profit. These people exist both in the Kickstarter game and in the comic shop game. They don't buy your book to read it, they buy it to sell it, or they buy it to collect it, like artwork. And I group this audience in with the audience of your publisher, which if you're self-publishing, I consider your publisher just your audience plus the platform you're using that's regularly on there, such as the Kickstarter regulars. That's your publisher, okay? And that the bigger your publisher, the bigger the pool of people that you'll get to follow you. So kind of the whole purpose of this group is, you'll want to get with the biggest publisher you can, because it's one of the next way to level up. Like, you're friends with all the other creators. All the people that review. They are down with you. They like your self-published books. They like your indie published books, whatever. But you're not going to break into the next real tier until you get with a publisher that just has a lot of regular readers who just kind of, regardless of who the creators are, they just buy books that are always from Valiant or Image or Dark Horse or whatever it is. And if it's not the publisher, I lump into this crowd also as like I was saying, just the general fan base of your platform, like Kickstarter. Okay, now it's like just rough estimates. There aren't that many people that just always read every book that comes out from a specific publisher, but in general, the bigger the publisher, the bigger your natural, almost on accident audience is going to be. So if you can get, like, if let's just say if you're on a bigger publisher, the way you get to where you're on boom and 100,000 people are buying your book is you did everything else before that. You got all your friends and family, all the other comic creators, all the commentators, all the speculators down with everything, and they're all talking about it. They're all building momentum. So you got the 10 people hyping it, which turned into 100, which turned into 1,000. Now when 1,000 people are talking about it, and you have a natural audience because you're on with Boom or Image or whatever, then you're gonna get the 20, 50, 100,000 readers, as opposed to just kind of the normal 3 to 10, okay? That's how you truly level up, is you got to do the other first two and do everything you can to get people talking. That's hard, you can get people talking, but to get it organic it has to be real. People just have to like it and think it's wild. But there are steps you can take. You got to have killer covers, killer artists, killer hooks. Just everything you need to do needs to be super top quality and just hook people. You'll know it when you see it. It's the same with movies. It's like it's got a star. It's sexy. It's scary. It's wild. It's unique. It's got the hook that's super whatever, or it's nostalgic. It's got something that draws people in, okay? And then it's got everything else. It's got the guy you like. It's got the girl you like. It's got the writer who's the new sensation or whatever. You can do that too with your book. You can go through all those steps. The final step, and I've gone all about, I did a short bit of this in another video, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating, but a lot of this might be new to a lot of you. So the final steps that you're doing is you want that to truly hit the mainstream, where you're getting like 10 to 100,000 readers plus. This is when you need to break into the greater pop culture crowd. And this is when you break out of comics. This is when you break out of especially independent creator-owned stuff and you get into the mainstream press. This is when people are talking about it because it has such high sales. And sometimes, like, I'm going to go over the best ways to do it. This is when you have a celebrity attached to your book. We've seen this. The best examples are Wesley Snipes with The Exiled, that was with the same publisher I'm on. Another big example was the Keanu Reeves book, Berserker. When you get a celebrity attached, that's a huge boost because now you have their giant fan base, you know. And you look at like Wesley Snipes, you know, Keanu Reeves, millions of followers, and they're true, real stars in the whole world, not just in comics. You've branched out into the main pop culture, and then you're just getting a percentage of that pop culture crowd. But you don't have to go always backwards in. You may not pull from pop culture to pull yours into it. You may sometimes it's what happens, like if your book gets optioned for a film or to become a TV series or actually gets into development. It's when you have such a unique character that people just want to, like, that character becomes a thing of its own. People don't even care about the storyline or what it is. They just like that character, and they start to, it becomes a part of pop culture just almost on accident because the character you create is so unique and interesting. Okay, and like so, ways that you can also do this without like, you know, getting optioned or having a celebrity is just breaking into a huge genre. So, or a very niche mainstream genre. A good example is like skateboarding. Okay, so skateboarding is not known for comics. However, it's got a huge mainstream following. And if your comic book can somehow branch out into that greater sphere to where anybody that's into skateboarding is now talking about your comic for whatever reason, that is a way to, you know, you're not drawing in a celebrity, you're drawing in a niche or a genre or a community. Okay, that's the other way to bring yourself into the greater mainstream, is to somehow niche outward, okay, into a huge pool. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you have a comic book that is a skateboarding comic, and it just becomes a huge deal in comics, it then sort of naturally becomes noticed in the skateboarding community, and you know, and then you don't go out just to comic conventions, you also go to skateboarding events, you know, and you sell there. Okay, it's that kind of thing, and it's not just skateboarding; it's whatever, you know. It could be gymnastics or just very specific type of science fiction, you know, steampunk, cyberpunk in the example of mine. You know, it's now not just a comic thing, it can be incorporated in the entire cyberpunk community, and along with sort of you know, a mixture of the greater genres of just like anime and manga. Just because the way it's drawn and stylized, you can sort of lump it into these greater realms. And if I do all the other categories correctly, it's kind of like the king of any pond still has relevance in all the ponds. If you're a king of a small country, you're still a king, you know, and you get the attention of the kings of all the bigger countries too. Okay, so you build up to where you're the best thing in your pool, and then you keep building your pool, keep jumping into bigger pools, and try to keep convincing your party to get bigger, and convince everybody that you're, you know, it's the coolest party, and it keeps getting bigger, and everybody that's cool is there, or whatever. Okay, That's the whole gist of my rule of magnitude. It's kind of like backwards. It's you grow by levels of magnitude up, and as you do that, you can kind of estimate that you're just automatically going to get a couple rules of levels of magnitude down as far as sales. You get 10,000 people to pay attention, you're naturally going to get 100 to 1,000 to actually buy your book. You know, that's the whole point of this whole thing as far as like sales and growing your audience. So, if that was interesting and made sense to everybody, please like and subscribe and buy my books. I've got Liquid Kill out in stores. I've got It Eats What Feeds It from Scout Comics. It'll be coming out in bookstores at the start of next year. It's also, you can still get it online, I believe, if it's not sold out at scoutcomics.com. But everything you can find in the link to my website, hovencrow.com. I also have a movie that's live on Amazon and Tubi TV. It's called Half Pace. All right, thanks, everybody. Peace out.